Coming up, the Mets finally get off the schneid while the Phillies fall in Miami. This is Locked On Game to Game MLB.
Every game, every team, every angle. Locked On Game to Game, your team every day.
Welcome in. You're listening to Locked On Game to Game MLB, local experts weighing in on the biggest stories in baseball. I'm your host, Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. The Phillies' 5-game win streak has come to an end as the Marlins took the series finale. Locked On Phillies said this one was over even before it started.
Well, the 5-game winning streak for the Philadelphia Phillies comes to an end. They lose the series ender to the Miami Marlins. Classic getaway game loss. You won 2, and you ran into a game today that the team looked like they slept-walked through. Kyle Schwarber homered. That was nice. Brandon Marsh had himself a nice night at the dish, a triple and a double with an RBI in there. But Noah Syndergaard was not remotely good enough on the mound, and the offense seemed asleep. And Pablo Lopez is a solid MLB starter, but he shouldn't be able to handle this lineup like he did today. This is just one of those overlooked performances, I think. You're looking at the Braves coming up in Atlanta. You're excited about being in the position you are in the wild card race, and sometimes you just you sleepwalk through a game. That's what the Phillies did today, and hey, whatever. They won the series. You move on to Atlanta, and you see if you can win a series against a much tougher opponent starting tomorrow night. But we move on. If you want more, check out all of our latest information and stats and content over on Locked On Phillies.
The Mets are fortunately moving on from that horror series with the Chicago Cubs by getting back to winning. Locked On Mets breaks down their victory over Pittsburgh last night.
The New York Mets got back on track Thursday, beating up the Pittsburgh Pirates 7-1. Carlos Carrasco was brilliant, and the Mets actually got production from their designated hitter spot. This is Ryan Finkelstein, the host of Locked On Mets. On the show tomorrow, we have a great game to discuss. Daniel Vogelbach, couple early RBIs, 3 of them in fact. Mark Vientos, first big league hit. He drove in a run from that DH spot. And Francisco Lindor, a couple of milestones. One, he homered. He broke a franchise record for the most home runs in a season by a shortstop. He also set a new career high when it comes to his runs batted in, 94 on the year, 6 away from the first 100 RBI season of the superstar shortstop's career. Just a awesome game we get to discuss on the podcast. And also, Sandy Alderson stepping down as team president. What does that mean for the franchise moving forward? I'll have all of that in tomorrow's edition of Locked On Mets.
Coming up, the Astros are inching closer to clinching that playoff spot. This is Locked On Game to Game MLB. This edition of Locked On Game to Game MLB is brought to you by BetOnline, the #1 spot for all of your online sports gambling needs. Football is underway, college and the pros, and of course, Major League Baseball is heading for the postseason in just a couple of weeks. So if you want to get in on the action, just head over to betonline.net. BetOnline, it's where the game starts. Welcome back to Locked On Game to Game MLB. I'm Kainani Stevens. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Same old story in the AL West. Houston keeps on winning. Oakland keeps on losing. Same thing on Thursday night. Locked On Astros breaks down the magic number for the Stros.
All right. So if the Astros win this game and the Mariners lose this game and the Yankees... I was calculating how the Astros can lower their magic number because the Astros keep on winning. They've won 5 in a row and they're playing the A's. And I mean, are the A's ever going to win again? I don't know. But Justin Verlander is returning to the mound tomorrow. That's exciting. Lance McCullers pitched very well tonight. 6 innings, 11 strikeouts. But the big hit of the game came from Aledmys Diaz. 7th inning, tie game. A 2-run shot to Crawford boxes. That was awesome. Christian Vasquez got his first hit, extra base hit with the Houston Astros. There was a lot of offense in this game. Yes, it came a little bit late in the game, but that's okay. And then you had Seth Martinez get his first Major League victory. He may be going down, but we'll discuss this and more on the next edition of the Locked On Astros podcast.
The Reds were able to upset the Cardinals last night, St. Louis losing a very winnable game at probably the worst possible time of the season. Locked On Reds and Locked On Cardinals. Join us with more.
The Cincinnati Reds won a game that Chase Anderson started. Yeah, baseball is funny sometimes. What's up? This is Jeff Carr from the Locked On Reds podcast, and the Reds stopped the losing streak in St. Louis against the Cardinals with a 3-2 victory. Great to see home runs from Aristides Aquino and Nick Senzel, two guys who we are constantly talking about because they are making adjustments. They're working with Alan Zinter. They're trying to refine their game, or in some cases, like Nick Senzel, revamp his game totally. He's had a really rough season, but that home run was nice to see. Plus, is Aristides Aquino inserting himself into future conversations? He was not in these discussions a month ago. And now all of a sudden, it's kind of hard to keep him out because that defense, you'd love to have that on the field as long as his bat has some kind of value to it, and it has recently. We're going to talk about that. And hey, Chase Anderson, look, he pitched well enough to give the Reds a win. That's all you can ask. That's all you can ask for a dude that you just picked off the waiver wire and brought into the team to help you whenever you were short on starting pitching. I'll take it. 4 games in 3 days now with the Cardinals. We'll see exactly how the Reds survive this, but we know for a fact it won't be a 5-game sweep. Make sure you check out the next Locked On Reds podcast as we talk about the adjustments being made by Aquino and Senzel and Barrero, and also look at some awesome stuff around Nick Lodolo.
Slow night for the Bats in St. Louis as the Cardinals fall to the Cincinnati Reds 3-2. Hey, it's JD from Locked On Cardinals, and the Cardinals have the Reds in town for 5 games in 4 days. Tonight seemed like a game that you could chalk up to the good guys. They had all-star pitcher Miles Mikolas on the mound. He's pitching at home where he's been fantastic this year. And the Reds roll into town, having lost 6 in a row after getting swept in Cincinnati by the Pirates, no less. But the Reds pitching and defense stymied the Birds tonight. In fact, they had just 1 hit heading into the 9th inning. Meanwhile, Miles Mikolas didn't pitch bad, but he gets stung by the long ball yet again, giving up solo jacks to Nick Senzel and Aristides Aquino, and uncharacteristically walks 3 hitters, one of which scored the Reds' second run. Pujols did get a sac RBI in the 9th inning, but remains at 697 career home runs, and Mikolas' record falls below 500 to 11-12 on the year. For more in-depth Cardinals content, join me tomorrow for a brand new episode of Locked On Cardinals.
That's all for today on Locked On Game to Game MLB. Thank you for making Locked On your first listen every single weekday. Make sure you go check out your team's Locked On podcast and subscribe to Locked On MLB on YouTube and wherever else you get your podcasts. I'm Kainani Stevens. This has been Locked On Game to Game.